Okay, let's look at the chord MIDI effect. So I'm going to throw that on here. I still have my violin section. I'm going to stay on the violin section. It was a little more enjoyable to listen to than the other one. So here's what I've got. Here's what it looks like. It looks like it's totally disabled right when you load it up. But hold on to that for just a second. Now I'm going to do one more thing just to make sure that this is easier for us to hear. Instead of these 3 notes, I'm going to go down to just 1 note. So here's just the note I have. And I'm going to disable, I'm going to turn off the chord MIDI effect for just a second, and so we can hear what we've got. So here's what we've got. Just a single note. No arpeggiator. Okay, so what the chord does, fairly simple actually, all it does is add more notes on top, right? So that note that we're playing is a what? Is a A. So what I could do here is if I want to add another note on top of it, let's add a C. I could go +1, +2, +3, right? Because A, 1 higher than A is going to be A sharp. 1 higher than that is going to be B. That's 2. 1 higher than that is going to be C. That's 3. So you just count up half steps. So now I'm going to have 2 notes. Right? If I want to add another note, let's add that. Right? Can add another note. Add another note. And I can keep adding notes that way. Take that 1 note and turn it into a chord based on what I'm defining here. Now we could go to our presets here and look at some various chords that they have set up for us. Jazz for Dummies, that's kind of fun. And remember that it's always going to transpose. So if I did this, let's do what I did before and make another note. This one a G, right? Right, it's going to keep transposing when we change the pitch. Everything's relative to the pitch you're giving it. So the notes are all going to change, but they're all going to add these extra notes. So what I'm hearing now is for every note that I play in my keyboard, I'm actually hearing 5 notes because I hear the one that the MIDI track is playing plus these 4. So don't forget about that original pitch that's in there. Now this is also why we might not want to give it a full chord, right? Let's do that. So here is my initial triad. If I give that to it, now it's going to transpose all 3 of these notes. It's going to add all of this stuff. It's going to add 4 notes to each note in there, and I'm going to end up with this giant chord. Right? So this works better on individual pitches. Now, that's cool. So we can turn a pitch into a chord, right? With the chord MIDI effect. Pretty simple, pretty great. What if I wanted to do something a little more interesting with it? Let's go back to my individual note. Okay, so now I'm just giving it 1 note and it's turning it into this big chord with the chord MIDI effect. Now let's have some fun with it by also adding an arpeggiator, right? So check it out. It goes in, my single note comes in here, gets turned into a chord, and then that chord gets handed to the arpeggiator, which is going to play it 1 note at a time, and then that gets passed to the violin section. Let's make this a little more interesting. So now I could change what pitches are happening. So I can basically change the chord just by tuning the chord settings here. So now I've added 2 MIDI effects, right? And that's okay. What if I switch the order? What's going to happen now? Right? Why is that happening? Let's trace our path here. So single note is up here. Single note is going into the arpeggiator. The arpeggiator sees 1 note and And it's going to play that note one at a time according to its rhythm. And that's only one note. So this is going to output ding, 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 a single note over and over and over because it's only got one note to choose from. That's going to go into the chord, which is going to take that single note and make it into a chord, which is going to make us just hear the same chord over and over and over and over, right? So the order matters here. This is going to be more interesting, right? Great. So now we have two MIDI effects that we know, and we know a cool way to use them together, right? So let's talk about the MIDI effect rack next, right? It's next in our list. We know two, so we might as well use it. We've looked at audio effects racks. We've looked at instrument racks. So let's see what we can do with a MIDI effect rack.